Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome back to the channel, and in this video we are going to be putting together the Vertus Praetors from the Adeptus Custodes. So to just see my unboxing video, I've actually gone ahead and built these about 90% built, so they're not fully done. That's to aid painting when it comes to doing that part of it. So there's a few bits that I have left off deliberately, but other than that the majority of the models are now complete. So let's take a look at how these have gone together. And if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe when you get to the end. It'd be much appreciated. But let's get straight into the build. So here we go then guys, let's build these Vertus Praetors. So what I've done is I've cut out all the components that make one of the jet bikes first, one of the Dawn Eagle jet bikes first. Now I don't know about you, but I think these have a slight resemblance to the jet bikes from Judge Dredd. With all that gold at the front and the machine guns and so on, and the fact they hover. Let's hope that these ones stay a bit more stable and a bit more in the air than the ones that do from the Sly Stallone movie. So the bikes go together pretty easily, to be honest. There is a little bit of trickiness at the front, which we'll get to in a second, but you put the two halves of the bike together, you put either the hurricane bolters or the salvo launchers into the nose cone, then you glue one half of the nose cone on, and then we go on to sort of the underside and so on. But I think it's a little bit too tricky to magnetise the weapon options because there's a little bit of eagle covering over the front that makes these weapons a bit more recessed. I think trying to make these interchangeable is actually going to be a little bit tricky, and I'll show you that on the video in a second. We just put the underplate on under the front nose cone there, which has some kind of hoverjet kind of technology built into it, and that's what some of the detail work is there. And then once we've got that sort of semi-dry, this is the sort of nose cone part, and this sits over the weapon systems in the nose. And as you can see, there's those three little grooves that just about click into place. That is a little bit tricky to put into. But once you put that in, it means that the hurricane bolter can't really pop out. So if you were going to try and magnetise these options, which I'm not going to be doing in the build of my 3, I am going with the hurricane bolter. Those rapid fire weapons, when they get a bit closer, pumping out an awful lot of shots. Is it 12 shots? I think they are rapid fire 6. So they're pretty tasty when they go into some shooting anyway. But yeah, as you can see, that little nose cone eagle thing, unless you start trimming some of that away so that you can make that recess a little bit more accessible and then make the weapon sort of pop in and pop out on a small magnet, I think is a little bit tricky. But those salvo launchers are exceptionally expensive, and if you're going to run a jet bike only army, you're probably not going to be doing very many of them, maybe 1 or 2. As I said in the unboxing video, a full army of Vertus jet bikes, you can get 21 in the list, including a shield captain, gives you 40 points to play with. So you could squeeze in one of those salvo launchers for 25 and still have 15 points in change. This is I think this is the Misericord sword. I am going to model it all on there. I mean, you know, if you don't pay the points for it, they're 10 points, I think, or 4 points, sorry, for each of those. I'm not, you know, it does just sort of fit on there. And you do need to make sure you put that on first because the exhaust system on that left-hand side does cover over it. It also does get in the way slightly when you come to put the pilot in, and we'll show you that in a second as well. But the exhaust system, yeah, that just sort of clips on over there quite nicely. And as you can see, that sword is sort of stuck between the exhaust and his back seat. I've got no idea how he would physically reach for that sword in that position. If you were to carry an extra sword on that bit, you're going to remove his steering arm from the steering column to try and draw it. Yeah, these guys are, I know they're sort of super mobile in those big suits of armour, but trying to pull that sword out whilst you're mid-flight is probably a bit tricky from there. It's almost like you want it mounted on the nose cone, really, to make it technically accessible. But there's a few other little bits and pieces to go on here. So you can see the tail fin is now on. There's a rear grab rail for the pilot. I assume that's to aid him getting in and out of the saddle. So it's a nice little bit of extra detail. Then we can move on and put the foot plates on. So there's two halves. So one goes on the left, one goes on the right. Nice and simple. And there we go, just putting the other one on there. They do sort of fit in quite nicely as well. There's no fanning around with some of these bits. They do all connect in quite nicely. As we move on to the exhaust system, this is a double jet engine on the back, just plugs in nice and easy in that little gap. then we got some tail fins or ailerons that they are keyed, and they do look like they're pointing backwards. So when you come to do your own jet bikes, you notice those little points out the back actually point backwards, and that's the same on the tail fin as well. I know a number of people that built the Storm Raven gunship. I am guilty of this myself. The rear tail fin looks like it should be swept backwards when actually it should be swept forwards. Something vaguely similar. So when you come to do yours, make sure you put them the right way around. Now the front stabilisers, the little wingtips that are going on here, these are keyed slightly as well, so they only go one way round. And as you can see, the points on these ones actually go forwards. So the ones at the back point backwards, as you can see in that shot there, and the ones at the front point forwards. And that is the Dawn Eagle bike complete. So we can now move on to the rider, and I'm not going to assemble the rider 100% because it will impact your painting, especially if you're really key to try and get into some of the nooks and crannies and give it that extra bit of wow factor when you come to make yours. Now make sure you put the boot on the right foot. As you noticed there, I was trying to glue that onto the wrong one before realising that the straps for the boots are on the outside like an idiot. And they fit in. There's a little nodule on those, so you can get those all nice and lined up. And then we move on to the two halves of the torso. Now one of these guys, you actually put half the torso on first because some of the model actually interweaves with the belt kit on the legs. So 2 out of the 3, you put the two halves of the body together first, and on the third one, which is the one that with the optional shield captain parts, which basically is a bare head option, yeah, you put these two halves together, and on the other one you do one half first and then you glue the other bit to the front. So as I said, I am going to partially assemble all of these into the bike itself. As most of it is actually gold, it's not going to be an issue. And as you can see, that sword did slightly get in the way there, and that's something to be aware of when you come to build your kit. You have to make sure that sword is in the right place, and it is a little bit tricky to get right. So now that we've got the legs on, we can then glue the torso on. So just a nice little blob of glue onto that bit, and then that just clicks in over the top. Just make sure you get your orientation right. I have seen people attempt to glue torsos upside down. Just remember the head recess is to the top and not to the bottom. And then we can just dab a little glue in there, and then we go for the head option. Now all of my guys are not the character, they're not the shield captain. So I've gone with the full helmeted head with the red plume. The shield captain option basically is a bare head option, so that would distinguish him out from the rest of the model, or the rest of the other Praetors. Now as you can see, I've just moved off camera here because that side piece there with the leg greave and the billowing part of his cape actually was a very, very snug fit, especially with that sword getting in the way. Now that sword is quite annoying, it does get in the way. Now perhaps I should have glued that on the front, as I mentioned before, because you can't actually physically access it anyway. So maybe for aesthetic reasons I should have put it elsewhere, because all it does is get in the way. But in order for me to get those two pieces on, I did pull it off camera slightly so that I could actually physically see exactly what I was doing. As you can see, those billow over the exhaust quite nicely. They are, you know, nicely sculpted to fit around those engine exhausts. And then once we're done, that is, well, we're just going to move on to the top knot itself, so the billowing plume on top. Just making sure I've got not too much glue on that, so it melts quite nicely. This is a bit of a weak point contact, so you do want to make sure that you get this right and centre it to give as best contact possible. And once we're done, there we go. That is the plume on top. I suppose you could tilt his head left or right maybe, and then push that plume left or right so it looks like it's flowing with the air correctly. And then the last bit of assembly for this video is just putting together the two halves of the lance. So two of the models in the kit come with an arm section and a lance, and then the other one comes with that all integrated together. So yes, two of them require this little minor bit of assembly. As you can see, the power cords all line up, and then the hand halves, one half of the hand is over the haft of the weapon, the other is still attached to his wrist. And there we go, that is as far as I am taking the build in this video, so that I can actually get on with the painting and still have enough access to get into all the details. So you can see there his arms and his shoulder pads, the lance, and then the steering column is actually missing. Now if you blinked and missed it, these are two different models in the kit there, so the plumes did change, and the shape of the cloak billowing over the exhaust did slightly change as well. That is literally the only difference between the models. So I wouldn't, you know, and yeah, those shield plates are slightly different as well, but there we go. That is all three put together. Hurricane bolters on them all, as I mentioned. I think Hurricane bolters on these is just going to be awesome. I mean, they are ballistic skill 2+ as it is, with the fly keyword. So they are going to be shredding when they get within their rapid fire range. So 12 inches away, these guys are going to be pumping out a lot of strength 4 AP0 damage 1 shots before they get into combat. And you can see this final picture here, just the pieces that I've left off. So the lances, the arms, the centre console, the steering or the handlebars. And that's pretty much as far as I'm going to take it for the build. So there we go then, guys. That is the Vertus Praetors fully assembled. Well, I say fully, as you well know, they are sort of 90% there. I've left sort of the steering column, handlebars, whatever you want to call them, and the arms and the shoulder pads off just for now, just so that will help me when it comes to painting. You want to be able to get into all of that detail. But as you can see, a lot of the guys have gone fully together because of the flowing parts over the exhausts and so on. And to do those separately, or to have the rider separately, would actually make painting probably a bit more tricky. So I've actually left them exactly as you've seen. And that's for the painting to come. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something new. Hope you are enjoying the Adeptus Custodes at the moment. I think they are phenomenal models. Yes, I think they're a little bit expensive, but if you watch my unboxing video, you get all my thoughts and opinions on the kits in that one. I'll obviously leave links in the description and so on for that if you want to catch that video. But until then, I shall catch you guys on the next video.